Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, sizes, and shapes, welcome to the Talk It Out podcast. My name is Tyler, and I am just one of your hosts, along with my friends Bruce, Justin, and Josh. Our friend Bruce might be joining us a little bit later today, but this, my friends, is a very, very, very special episode because I have two of my really close friends here to join us for an epic discussion on everyone's favorite topic, which is politics and religion. Normally, here on the Talk It Out podcast, what we do is have a live and interactive podcast. So if you're watching us live, you can check us out on YouTube, and that's Talk It Out Pod is our username on there. We are streaming a live YouTube stream right now all around the world, and we'll be talking about your favorite topics, once again, politics and religion. And with me today is my good friend Johnny. Mr. Johnny, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from? I grew up with Johnny in church, and let me tell you, this guy, he's a cool guy. Now, before we go on, why don't you tell everybody what your real name is, Johnny?
Yeah, so my name is Johnny, but a lot of people call me Scribbles.
Like Scribbles.
A lot of people.
Like
Scribbles.
Scribbles? Why? Who in the world would come up with such a weird name?
Oh, it's been so long. I barely remember, but I was in 7th grade. I'm 20 now, so I'm a junior in college. Go to UW-Madison. But 7th grade, I had just switched churches from kind of a austere Lutheran church to a new non-denominational church right down the block that was a lot smaller, and I didn't really know a lot of people there. I was just kind of a shy and awkward kid. Well, for a youth group retreat that I didn't want to go on, but they forced me on there, and I figured, I guess I'll make the most of it. So interacting with these people there, but still, kind of shy and awkward. Well, they were asking questions about myself to try to get me a shell, and one of the questions was, do? And I said, I don't know. I like to. And Tyler here, you're.
Sounds like we're having some technical difficulties here.
From here on out, I'm gonna call you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Sorry, we were having some technical difficulties. But what Scribbles was trying to say here was that he expressed to us that he likes to draw. So I went ahead and named him at church while he was in the 7th grade, and I called him Scribbles. And if it's okay for me to say, that he didn't. Really...
It was.
Why don't you explain it?
Yeah. Well, it was actually because I love to read and write.
Read and write. That's what it was.
Which made me a scribe in their eyes.
A scribe, yes.
Yeah, hence Scribbles. Used to be the nickname of.
I don't even know how I knew that name or how I knew what a scribe was at that point in my life. So, that's a little interesting. So, but thanks for sharing your story. We'll get back to you in just a second. Let's move on to our next special guest, Mr. Jason. Mr. Jason is a coworker of mine, and we work together at a major legacy U.S. carrier, and which is airline. For those who do not call it a carrier, we call it a carrier. That's fancy airline speak for airline. And we are flight attendants. We serve Cokes, and we save your life if anything goes wrong. Isn't that right, Jason?
That pretty much sums it up. That's what we do at the carrier.
So, Jason, tell the population how we came to know each other.
We came to know each other. We were both new hire flight attendants, and we were working in New York City. And one evening, I was strolling through LaGuardia Airport and was in the operations area, and I looked over, and there was a man sitting on the couch, and we got to talking, and turns out this cat was a musician, and I'm a musician, and we both grew up in church, and we both just had a lot in common, and we got to chatting, and ever since we've been good buddies.
Good buddies indeed.
Good buddies indeed.
After that night, which was ironic, I was thinking to myself, man, what a cool guy. I mean, it would be cool to see him later on. And sure enough, we saw each other again. And then, what was it? 6 months later, we were living together.
Wow, this just got really racy.
It did. It got so racy. Let's clarify what living together means, please.
Yeah, we lived in an apartment together with 16 other roommates, 18 of us total, in a 3-bedroom in New York City.
Yeah, that's what we call the crash pad.
The crash pad, living the glamorous life of a flight attendant in New York City.
Crash pads are a group of flight attendants who live together in a temporary place. It's basically just a place to sleep. And we stay there, at our base. That is if you don't live at your base. So like if you live elsewhere in the country and you're based in New York, most people have a crash pad in New York so they can come in, the night before their trips, get some real rest instead of like commuting in the day of or not being able to commute in so that you could, and all that kind of fun stuff. If you want to learn more about airlines, you can check out an airline related podcast. And a shameless plug for one of my favorite podcasts, the Airline Pilot Guy Show. If you're really into aviation and airline type of things, you can check out the Airline Pilot Guy Show on your favorite podcast medium as well. That's airlinepilotguy.com. So thanks for hanging out with us guys tonight. We'll get a little bit more into your stories as we get kind of in depth with our topics tonight, which is everybody's favorite, politics and religion. Ha, 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 ha. So funny. Aren't you guys excited? I'm excited.
Yeah, we'll see.
Ecstatic
excitement. That's great. So here on the Talk It Out podcast, we always start out with our favorite game, and that is called Round It Out. So for those live viewers, we just had a little pause there so we could listen to the Rounded Out theme music, which we unfortunately don't have tonight on the live version, but it'll be added in post-production. And this little conversation that I just had with you will be edited out post-production. So welcome to the behind-the-scenes version of the Talk It Out podcast. The Rounded Out section. Rounded Out. What is Rounded Out? It's a game where we go around and we talk about news stories, but here's the catch. You only get 30 seconds to talk about that news story. Then we have to move on to the next person who will get 30 seconds to talk about their feelings. It can become, incredibly frustrating. And that's the best part about it. We might even dive into some of these news stories a little bit later in today's show as we get into the interview portion of today's special edition of Talk It Out. So once again, Round It Out. We're going to get started. Mr. Johnny, you're going to be our first one up today. And we're going to start with this news story. So gather your thoughts. Jason and Johnny, go ahead and gather your thoughts and I'll gather mine. And we will talk about this first news story, who is, by the way, very this whole news story right here, I'm sure you all have heard about it. You might have heard of a guy. His name is Donald Trump. Don't know if you've heard of him, but he's kind of out there right now in politics. So Donald Trump, that's what this first news story is about. This is from the New York Times. Donald Trump assails his accusers as liars and unattractive. So the New York Times goes on to say, Donald J. Trump wielded his presidential candidacy on Friday as a weapon for savaging detractors and venting personal grievances, attacking the women who have accused him of sexual assault and unwelcome advances, and rallying against what he described as a vast conspiracy against him by the news media and Hillary Clinton's campaign, or as Donald would put it, crooked Hillary's campaign. So he goes on to talk about how these people were lying about him and all this kind of stuff. But I think what we really want to talk about tonight is the fact what he said about these people. So he says was very dismissive of these people, that go on to say, and one of his quotes from when he was talking about these people was, check out her Facebook page, you'll understand. So in so many words, we can only assume that he was making, or allowing us to assume by doing his typical Donald Trump fill in the blank style campaigning quotes, that he wants us to look at this woman's Facebook page that was accusing him of sexual assault and make our own conclusions, aka we think she's ugly. If you agree with that statement, if you agree with Donald Trump, if you hate Donald Trump, I want to hear about it. But here's the best part, Mr. Johnny, you've only got 30 seconds. I've got my timer ready, and
right.
let's see here. 30 seconds for you begins now.
All right. Well, I think one of the big things about Donald Trump is that he sees things through too much of a black and white lens. He enjoys being the center of attention, and that can be either in a good way or a bad way. I don't think that detracting these women is certainly not out of character, but he can
And
only
30 seconds is up.
gain
Thank
from
you
it.
very much. 30 seconds is
All
up.
right.
Yeah, see, it goes quick. Welcome to Round It Out. We're glad you're here. It goes really, really quick. Mr. Jason, have you gathered your thoughts?
They still seem a bit scattered. I'm looking at them, and they're
That's
all
all right.
over the place.
That's fine with me, because guess what? It doesn't matter. You've got 30 seconds to talk about Donald Trump. Do you think he was calling this woman ugly? What are your thoughts about this whole situation, this whole Donald Trump thing? You've got 30 seconds, and it starts right now.
Well, I think we could gain more insight into what he meant by that comment, into actually looking at the lady's Facebook page. What was her name? And does anyone know the address to get to her Facebook page? I'd really actually be kind of interested to check it out. He called her a liar, and he apparently called her unattractive. I think that those are both pretty strong claims. And
30 seconds is up. Thank you very much.
thank God. Wow. Phew.
Wow, he was struggling on that one.
That was
it's not
rough.
an easy game. It seems easy in concept, but once you start it, it's not that easy. So, anyways, 30 seconds for me, my turn, and we're going to talk about Donald Trump here in 30 seconds, which begins right now. Donald Trump, the man, the myth, the legend, if you will, for so many people, has said so many outrageous things. I think the media is starting to think that, maybe he's predictable. So I want to take this story with a little bit of a grain of salt. And I want to think, just to play devil's advocate here, maybe he wasn't saying that. Maybe he wasn't saying she's unattractive. Maybe he was saying, check out her Facebook page and you'll see that she lies about everything. Maybe she was posting pictures where and 30 seconds is up for me. Wow. Okay. How'd you guys feel about that first round of Round It Out? Did you like it?
I need to adapt.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, you have another chance to adapt as we start our next story, which is a little bit lighter, on the lighter end. If you were here for the behind the scenes, you kind of heard a little preview of this story. But I want to get y'all's thoughts on a particular hero, a man who stepped in and said, I will take over the role as savior, a man who stepped in and said that I will take over the role as everything you've ever needed and nothing that you ever deserve. So, we're talking about the person who will save us all from the very end of days, which will happen if Donald Trump gets elected. Ken Bone. Have you heard of Ken Bone? Ken Bone comes from the debate. We discovered this person on the second presidential debate between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And Ken Bone was wearing a nice knit sweater with a tie, and he stood up and shocked the world with an incredible question. Ken Bone also decided that he was going to let everybody know how he became an internet sensation overnight. And we'll talk about this in a little bit detail, but I want to focus on one specific thing. So if you don't know who Ken Bone is, go look it up. But Ken Bone did a Reddit, help me out, Johnny, here. What's it called? AMA? Is that what it's called?
AMA, Ask Me Anything. Yeah.
Ask Me Anything. A Reddit Ask Me Anything, which is sort of like a Q&A interview on Reddit. And he decided he was going to use his actual Reddit profile instead of a different profile. And people can go back and look at his history and seen some of the things that he's used on this website, Reddit. So this news article comes from Fox News, everyone's favorite news source, and you can either take that as sarcasm or not. Ken Bone, the headline is this: Ken Bone linked to questionable past comments on Reddit. The fan base that made Ken Bone an instant internet sensation quickly turned against him on Thursday. Bone, the rotund man in a red sweater who went viral after his question during the second presidential debate, has come under fire after a series of comments he supposedly made that were unearthed. Bone opened up during a Reddit AMA Ask Me Anything session on Thursday, which we already talked about, using his own username, which apparently had crudely discussed hacked nude images of Jennifer Lawrence, discussed pregnant porn, and quipped about committing felony insurance fraud. So he admitted to doing felony insurance fraud, but also seemingly commented on the controversial shooting of Trayvon Martin. So that's right. Our person that we all fell in love with on the interview was talking about all these sort of crazy things. And I want to hear your thoughts on the whole Ken Bone situation. If you don't know too much about it, I'll give you a chance to kind of gather your thoughts, but I want to know just your whole situation in general. If when someone's put in the spotlight, should they be held accountable for their past issues? This could permeate into other people. So you got 30 seconds to talk about it. I spent a little too much time introducing that one. So I'm going to go ahead and give each of you an extra second out of the kindness of my heart. Okay, 30 seconds, Mr. Johnny, you'll go first. I'm going to get the timer set here, and you can start in 3, 2, 1. You there, Johnny?
Did you say go?
Yeah, go ahead, Johnny. Yep.
I think it's pretty unfair to say that he was turned on by the people, because I think he really is representative of the people. He's an everyman, a coal worker, middle class, undecided, not pleased with the options this election cycle. And I did happen to look at that pregnant lady thing he was talking about. They were in swimsuits. There was nothing. It was safe for work. I have no
30 seconds is up. 30 seconds is up. Thank you for your thoughts. Mr. Jason, let's hear your thoughts on public exposure of past renderings, this whole Ken Bone situation. I want to know what you're thinking about it. You've got 30 seconds to spill your heart out on this podcast in 3, 2, 1, go.
I think that we live in a culture with really fuzzy standards when it comes to stuff like that. Like, we look at past screw-ups, if you will, when it's convenient for our agenda or for what we're going for, and sometimes we ignore it when it's not convenient. Also, I'd like to comment, he's got a great stash, and I think that his sweater lends a certain Mr. Rogers credibility to his thoughts in the current election season.
That's it. 28 seconds. That's all you needed to spill your heart. Wow. So you got 4 seconds in the bank for next time you come on the show. I'm going to talk about Mr. Ken Bone for 30 seconds here, and that starts right about now. All joking aside, I really, really think that what Scribbles or Johnny said had a really good thought process to it. I think he really is relatable. And I think with those past doings, when I first heard about the story, my initial thought was, okay, so he's human. But yet for some reason, the Republican right-wing media that is Fox News, as well as I want to point out CNN had similar thoughts just to the other end of the spectrum. We're kind of ripping apart for no reason. Is because they put him on a pedestal? I don't know. 30 seconds is up for me, though, and we might get into that a little bit later. So we've got one more news story here for our rounded out section. And this one, let's see here. Oh, no, I lost it. Wow. Can you be any more unorganized, Mr. Host? Goodness gracious. All right. So I apologize, everybody, if you're listening out. This is going to be edited out. Welcome to the backstage version of Talk It Out podcast. Okay, so we're going to go back to the politics thing here because it really hits the nail on the head with what we're going to be talking about tonight. So Trump, this one comes from CNN.com. Trump says, why doesn't some woman accuse Obama? Why is everyone accusing me? Donald Trump criticizes President Obama for mentioning him in speeches at Hillary Clinton campaign events and wonders why some women doesn't accuse President Obama of inappropriate behavior, because apparently there was a video that was leaked of President Obama on his campaign aircraft back when he was campaigning. I'm not sure if it was for senator or for president. We'll have to go back and double check that. But there was a video that came out with him apparently, and this is a keyword apparently, jokingly showing his genitals through his clothes. He didn't show them nude, but jokingly showing his genitals to a female campaign staffer. So Trump wants to know why that's not being talked about, why he's the only one being accused. I want to get your thoughts, Mr. Johnny. You've got 30 seconds to talk about Trump accusing Obama or the media of playing favorites. Let's hear more about our favorite person, Donald Trump. You've got 30 seconds in 3, 2, 1, and go.
Like I said, Donald Trump's worldview is very black and white. It's so much easier to exist in a culture like ours when you think that everyone is against you. So to try to put the blame on someone else and shift the spotlight and make everyone with the pitchforks turn around in another direction, it's kind of a reprieve for him. Obviously, he's trying to save his floundering campaign, but
30 seconds is up. Sorry, I forgot to hit unmute. 30 seconds is up. You went a little bit over your time, but we appreciate that anyways. Real quickly, we'd like to interject and welcome one of our main hosts, co-host of Talk It Out podcast, Mr. Bruce. How you doing today, man?
Hey guys, how's it going? Good.
Good. So if you guys didn't meet yet, we've got my friend Johnny here. I grew up with him in church. And we've got my friend Jason, who is a coworker. And if you're just joining us on the Talk It Out podcast, you can listen to their stories at the beginning of this podcast. We'll get a little more into that. Mr. Bruce, how did we meet?
Bad Christian Club.
Bad Christian Club. Bad Christian is a great podcast if you're into Christianity and constructive criticisms of the evangelical church and Christian church in America today. So if you're into that type of stuff, you can check it out. So we were a part of this club and we met that way. So Mr. Jason, are you here? Are you still here with us, Mr. Jason?
I am so here.
Okay, perfect. So you've got 30 seconds to talk about this whole situation. The whole Donald Trump blaming the media for picking on him and not Obama. Let's hear about it. 30 seconds starts now.
I agree with what Scribbles said. Donald Trump's worldview tends to be a little black and white sometimes. But I also think that our line is like the standard that we hold people to is kind of a moving line, moving target. Like we accuse people if it's convenient. We let people off the hook when it's not convenient. And I think that there's not really a set black and white standard there for what videos we
30
take.
30 seconds is up. 30 seconds is up. Thank you very much. Mr. Bruce, were you able to hear the story while you were listening there earlier?
No, I missed what the actual topic was. I have an idea.
Okay, so yeah, really quickly, Trump is accusing the media of only picking on him and not picking on Hillary or Obama. There was a video that came out of Obama jokingly showing his enlarged genitals through his clothing. He didn't show it nude, but his enlarged genitals to a staffer on an airplane while he was campaigning. And then, of course, all the WikiLeaks issues that came out with Hillary and video and audio recordings of her yelling at people, things like that. So he's accusing the media of only picking on him and not that side of the campaign. So I want to get your thoughts on that. 30 seconds, round it out. You know how it works. Welcome to the party.
So I think he has a little bit of a point in the number of outlets that cover him versus covering Hillary's scandals. There are a small number of conservative outlets in comparison to the non-conservative outlets, which tend to be slightly more left-leaning. So he may have a point. That doesn't excuse his ridiculous nature, but he may have a point if you were to just talk about actual airtime numbers. I think he probably gets more of it.
Wow, perfect 30 seconds. Man, you're a pro at this. It's like you host the show or something. Man, it's it's uncanny. It's uncanny. Right. So we have just completed our favorite section of the show, and that's the rounded out section. We thank you so
Wait,
much.
you lead with your favorite section?
Yeah, absolutely. We lead with our favorite section of the show.
That's
And
just-
by the way, we call
that's
every
poor
section
planning.
of the show. We call every section of the show our favorite section. So
It's true.
Oh.
It's like choosing your favorite child. I mean, you can't do it.
You just can't. You can't, unless you're Trump, then you can choose. No, that was a joke. That was a joke. Ha ha ha. So we appreciate Mr. Bruce on here because he's always fair and balanced. And if we start to become biased, he'll rein us back in.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Keyword sometimes. So we're going to move on to the main talking points and the reason why we have Johnny and Jason joining us as special guests today. We want to get their thoughts. So Johnny, if you would please take about a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes, and just give us a quick background on you when it comes to religion and politics. I want to know about your upbringing. Is it Christian? Is it conservative? Is it atheist? Is it Lutheran? Is it whatever? I want to know about it, and I want to know about how your family feels about politics today. Just go ahead and take a couple minutes and let us know about you.
All right. Well, I was born and raised in suburban Wisconsin. To a Christian family. We grew up in the Lutheran Church, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. Missouri Synod, which is not too liberal, not too conservative. When I was about 12 years old, 11 or 12, we switched churches to Tyler's church, a non-denominational one right down the block, which was a lot more lively. Just a little dash of fundy in there, but it kept things interesting. Politically, my parents are pretty hardline conservatives. My dad is I would say a little more lenient than my mom is. She's a little bit more neoconservative, but I guess I kind of considered myself Republican de facto growing up, but for about, 5 years now. I'm 20 now, so for about 5 years, I've considered myself a moderate just because I really don't know enough about about the topics at hand to be able to make an educated decision. So I think it's kind of unavoidable in this election cycle to remain uneducated. So I have been putting in a little more time and familiarizing myself with the candidates and their stances and how that aligns with my own views. Right now, I'm leaning towards, well, it's a hard lean towards Gary Johnson. I really don't think that decision is going to change anytime soon. But I guess for now, I would consider myself a moderate who this cycle is going libertarian. So.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Mr. Jason. I want to hear a little bit if you'll do the same. Give us a little 1 to 2 minute synopsis of your upbringing and your background and the type of religion and politics and your family's upbringing and background, if you will, too. And I can tell we're having just a little bit of bandwidth issues, so if we could just turn the videos off. I'm not sure where it's coming from, but that would be great. Mr. Jason, give us a little upbringing, politics and religion. Let's hear about it.
Sure. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, and went to a non-denominational church growing up until I went to college. And after college, I walked away from faith for a while. Probably at the best scale of that, I was agnostic. And then through a series of events, I've just had some really cool encounters with God the last few years and come back, and it's been kind of a slow journey coming back, but I grew up in a conservative home. My parents were both conservative, and I didn't really realize it. I was probably pretty conservative growing up. When I walked away from my faith, my leanings were a little bit more liberal, but as my faith's come back, I've found that I share some semi-conservative beliefs. I'd consider myself kind of middle, moderate, if you will. But I don't really identify with partisanship in general. My candidate of choice this year is Donald Duck, and I will quite possibly be writing that onto a ballot come November 8th. Um,
So you're gonna do a write-in.
I may. I think Donald Duck has the appeal and the beliefs that I am looking for in a presidential candidate this year in comparison to the other candidates that I've researched. So
Love it.
there you go.
Interesting. Very interesting. Anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, I think that completes my response for this portion.
I like it. Mr. Bruce, I know you're a host, but I want to hear a little bit from you, just about your upbringing and things like that. What is it? Christian? Is it conservative? Is it anti-religion? And let's just talk about that.
I was baptized Catholic or Christian Catholic out of tradition's sake. My family wasn't churchgoers, weren't churchgoers at all. I didn't come around to most church experiences till my uncle sort of exposed me to that. Late high school, early college. I decided to be baptized my freshman year of college. And I've never been a part of a traditional church of any kind. And when I say traditional, I mean like denominationally based or pews and like steeple and all that kind of thing. I've always been, the only churches I know of or I've been a part of are like non-denominational modern contemporary services. So that's how I come about most things politically. I think my mom may have been a Clinton fan, the original Clinton, the first Clinton, but honestly she's usually like didn't care. My dad is pretty conservative, I would say, but he nowadays I'd say he probably leans conservative libertarian at this point, similarly to me, I think. But I kind of try and stay independent as much as I can. This election, I out of all people running, I think I'd still vote for Gary Johnson, but I don't think he's the model of libertarianism that I want. But he is an available candidate, and my conscience would not be okay voting for anyone else. If Trump weren't the way he is, maybe I'd go that route. Mostly just because I'm not a fan of Hillary at all. And so, but I can't in good conscience vote for Trump just as a figurehead of the United States. It's a mess. But I really tend to focus a lot more on local politics than anything else, as I think that's where our country shines, is our states and our state sovereignty, which I would rather have exist in the future, even though most people are kind of leaning toward more federal intervention in your life, and I prefer not to have that happen.
That's really interesting. I like that. Thank you for doing that. Yeah, I guess I'll get into my background just real quick, just to balance out the playing field here. I grew up extremely conservative, extremely Republican, right-wing Christian, not like over the top, but I just grew up knowing that was the way to go. You had to vote Republican because it was God's way. Republicans are anti-abortion for the most part. Like that. That was like the way that I grew up politically. Faith-wise, it's always been Christian. It's always been non-denominational. We got into a little bit of, because of my parents, got into a little bit of, the prosperity message and Pentecostal Christianity. So speaking in tongues, miracles, healings, things like that. We got into that growing up. So that was interesting. And it's interesting how that's kind of coming back around and playing with politics. As I've grown older, I've become very, very, very cynical towards the politics side of it, especially this election. So for this election, I am very split down the middle between Hillary and Gary Johnson. I really, really, really want to vote Gary Johnson, like you were talking about, Bruce, out of conscience. But I can't almost in a way, I don't know. I don't know if I have enough confidence that Hillary can win all by herself, just with the amount of momentum that Donald Trump can surprise us all with. And I know for a fact that I don't want Donald Trump in office. So we've established this, grounds here where all four of us had, kind of talked about our upbringing, and it would appear that we have all similar backgrounds, maybe not religiously, but even politically. And I want to make this conversation that we have tonight to be as unbiased as possible. So I want you to take that lens that we just talked about, that lens that we grew up in, and I want you to use that as experience, as a tool, but I don't want us to use that as our basis for whatever we're talking about. You can use those experiences that we had, but my point is I want it to be as unbiased as possible, and I want there to be some even defenses against, Trump, and I want to be defenses against Hillary and Johnson. And I want to hear everybody's thoughts about this tonight and how it all ties in. And some of the main points we're going to talk about tonight is how does religion fold into politics? Because I really, really think that there's an interesting thing going on right now where evangelicals are having to, as a whole, are having to defend Donald Trump for some of the things that he's saying and doing. And is that okay? Should we be worried about that? So I want to kind of go around here. Maybe we'll start with Bruce this time to give Jason and Johnny a chance to kind of catch up on the flow of things. And I want to know for this topic, in today's world, do you think evangelicals should be defending Donald Trump simply because of principle? Or let's talk about that in general. I'll leave it at that. Do you think evangelicals should be defending Donald Trump?
Boy, so I guess it kind of depends on where evangelicals lie. So if the evangelicals are only concerned about, like, let's say pro-choice versus pro-life, or maybe something that would infringe upon their like religious freedoms, which that's another issue, but I would say that would be a reason to vote for Trump, because in their opinion, they're not there. It has zero to do with character, and it all has everything to do with how policies would be created that affect them. So in their case, if a robot were running, right, it wouldn't make any difference to them because they're not concerned with character. They're concerned with specific, very specific policy in their case, which is, usually abortion, gay marriage. I would say, I don't know about evangelicals, but conservatives are much more interested in giving more power to the states' rights, Second Amendment, things like that. And that's one problem I have is that evangelicals and conservatives have become almost interchangeable in the media nomenclature or colloquialisms, and a lot of times in like liberal circles, they sort of just assume that evangelical and conservative mean the same thing, which is not true. I have lots of conservative friends that aren't even Christians. They're just fewer, I guess, and far between in terms of the media. So in terms of an evangelical, should they or should they not vote for Trump? If those specific issues are all they care about for the most part, then they should vote for him, really, because at least on paper and what he has said, those sorts of things are not going to be a problem. But
that's interesting. I think the contrary argument, though, is his morals. I mean, can you? But like I said, we're ignore. Not. Yeah. Can you ignore the morals, though? Can you?
Like I said, I think they can because okay, if you are a true evangelical and you believe that Christ is king, and your job is to spread his word, politics should be this last thing in your mind, really. But if they are in your mind and you think you have a duty to uphold your Christian values, then your Christian values are going to come first. And in their minds, those mean preservation of life, which is abortion, being able to practice freely. That's worship Christ, etc. That's important to them. So and I think in gay marriage, those things are minuscule in my brain in terms of politics, but in people that are wearing their evangelical hearts on their sleeves, they're not concerned about whoever is morally reprehensible or not, because that's not their concern.
Sure. So I guess the real question is are people willing to give up the fact that this man has done these things? Because it's not a fact of if he's done these things. There are specific things that he has done and said about this. So, and Jason and Johnny, feel free to chime in whenever you want here. We don't have to go necessarily in order or anything like that, but I want to hear everyone's thoughts on this. I mean, really though, I mean, like, can you get over the things he's done and said as a candidate, and all for the fact, we can get into Supreme Court justice, we can get into whatever it may be, but does Jesus call us? I guess the question is, does Jesus call us to ignore someone's behavior in order to get done what you think he wants done? Let's hear it, Johnny. What do you got to say?
Well, I'd first like to just preface this by saying I'm not always politically minded. I'm still learning about this process. I've never, even been able to vote before. So
sure.
Recognize that that I'm coming from that angle, and not I'm not the primary source of wise information.
I wouldn't look at that as a negative, though. I think it's very interesting to have you with us tonight, because I think it's a good perspective that not a lot of people get to see. So
yeah, I would, and I also like having the opportunity to speak to people that are younger than myself. I'm 29, that are younger than myself that haven't voted yet, because I'm really interested in getting the bead on, because I have an opinion of what I think people younger than me feel, but it's nice to hear perspective from somebody that's so young. So go ahead.
Okay. Well, to your original question, should evangelicals be defending Trump? I want to say no, because, like Bruce was saying, they're voting for the party more than they're voting for the person. They are trying to ensure that their future is protected. Many American Christians view themselves as Americans and then Christians. And a big thing about America.
I think I just lost him there.
What's that?
Oh, we lost you for a second.
Okay. Well, American Christians is they view themselves as Americans and then Christians. A lot of their identity is related to the fact that they very persecuted when you are comparing it to a lot of Christians in this world. I mean, just the other day, the Islamic State tortured and murdered, I think, 12 Christians. I mean, America, by and large, we are very well defended. We spend more on our military than the next 7 countries do combined, which should tell you something. So,
but okay, one thing I will say about that is our GDP is higher than most every country. Yeah. So percentage-wise, of your GDP, we're not the top of the list. I think places like Israel are higher. In terms of like the percentage of your gross domestic product that is spent on military. Like if you just take the monetary amount, we would spend more on almost everything than every other country because we just have so much money. So anyway, go ahead. I just wanted to say that.
That's a good point. There are a few out there that are a bit more hawkish than we are, maybe, but we're still a dominant force.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no doubt.
And so a lot of we don't really ever question our safety. Wars are not fought here; they're fought in other developing countries that we pronounce the name of. So for an evangelical to, feel attacked by the media or by liberal ideology, it kind of makes sense, because that's that's where they don't feel safe, is in their ideology. If they're physically safe, then perhaps mentally or socially they feel exposed. And there are a lot of things in the Bible which lead you down that path, is saying that you are promised suffering in this life. Blessed be those who are reviled for my name's sake. The entire book of First Peter has a lot to say on suffering.
So do you think that some evangelicals are using scriptures such as that, or even other scriptures, to claim persecution on Jesus's behalf? I mean, I'm sure it's possible, but is that a valid argument? Are you being persecuted if you are being ridiculed for your choice to vote for Donald Trump in the name of evangelicalism or Christianity?
Well, certainly, I don't think anyone's suffered to the point of shedding blood, as I think Peter puts it.
Sure.
Like I was saying before, the world is a lot easier to interpret when you see it as black and white. You're either with me or against me. You're either attacking or defending. I listened to another podcast, and one of Dan Harmon's kind of a creative genius, created the show Community, Rick and Morty, things like that. Anyway, he was saying that there are two types of people in the world. There are people who think that there are two types of people in the world, and then there are the good people. Being closed-minded puts things in such a narrow dichotomy that it makes things easier for a reptilian brain like ours to make a fight or flight response.
Sure.
And categorize and analyze and sift through. So,
yeah, thank you. Let's hear. I'm going to hear a little bit from Jason on your perspective on this, because I think you might have a little bit different perspective.
The only thing I want to say about the real quick about the
go ahead.
About the being open-minded, so long as we're not discouraging forming an opinion and then being upset with those who do.
Yeah.
So that's really where I want to see progress, because we're cool at getting people to be open-minded, but what that really means is shut up and listen to what I have to say, and your opinion doesn't matter at all. A, and B, you're not allowed to have opinion. So I want to make sure that we eventually get to the point where people are open-minded, but they're also open-minded about other people's abilities to create and form an opinion, and not hate them based on that.
That's true.
I like that.
That's kind of what. Anyway, go ahead. That's what.
Yeah. No. I just wanted to hear. I want to hear Jason's side of this. As you've been gathering your thoughts here. Are you still with us, Jason?
I'm still with you, Tyler.
Cool. Let's hear from you, man.
Well, when I think about should evangelicals defend Donald Trump, to preface this, I'm like you mentioned, I'm really cynical when it comes to the system, when it comes to the political process, news, media outlets, these sorts of things. But on the other hand, I'm also very optimistic about humanity, about people, about all this sort of thing. So when I look at the Donald Trump situation, honestly, America's weird. Our political process is really weird. We have this thing where right, red, Republican, morals, patriotism, all these things kind of go together into one package a lot of times, especially coming from the Bible Belt. You see this thing where you love the flag, you love God, you love republicanism, you love all these sorts of things, and it all goes together in one package. And if you don't agree with that, or if you're anywhere else on the spectrum, you're kind of the opposite. You're considered leftist, all this sort of thing. So we got this really weird process where all these things tend to go together. I'm not saying they have to, but they tend to. And it makes for a really weird situation. So you've got, as an evangelical, you've got these people that defend Donald Trump because it's the patriotic thing to do, or it's their party thing to do. It's a platform, this sort of thing. But honestly, should evangelicals defend Donald Trump? I don't know. The man we've seen some character things that could make us question the man's character. But when I look at it through the lens of faith, or through the lens of should evangelicals defend him? I'm not sure we should defend his platform, or we should defend what he says or what he does. But I think we're called to love Donald Trump. And I think defending him and loving him are quite possibly two very different things, could be. But in loving him, like, do I have to agree with his platform or his character issues? No. But I think as a Christ follower, like, I need to hope for the best in Donald Trump, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, I like to think that there's more to Donald Trump than we're being presented with. I like to think that there's a man in there that, I don't know, that I would like. I can sit down and have a conversation with and enjoy talking to him, enjoy chatting with him, enjoy some of the things he has to say. I don't think we're often presented with a lot of that, but I think it's in there.
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of Republicans that can't stand Barack Obama, but I don't think any of them would pass up a chance to say hello to him and speak to an interesting individual that's run the country for 8 years. You know, and in terms of Donald Trump, I don't think anyone would pass up the opportunity to talk to a billionaire, or at least a former billionaire, depending on how you feel about his wealth. I mean, the guy has made a huge impact on finance and just basic celebrity status in our country. So for anyone to not want to speak to him, you know, I can understand why they wouldn't, but you know, there's probably, I mean, there's no reason to say, hey, I don't want to talk to an interesting human being that's probably got some crazy stories. I mean, I would assume he does, right?
Yeah, he's got to.
So I mean, I like the love argument. I haven't heard that a lot. I have heard it, but not a lot. I mean, especially from contemporary Christians, I feel like that are in that like moderate world a little more, or maybe even really liberal, which is not uncommon, but it's not like, I feel like the vast majority of your strong liberals are atheists. I think I didn't make that claim. Somebody else on another podcast I listened to did. They think like their intellectual core are considered atheist. So it's very hard to run across a Christian liberal. It's not as common. But you know, it's an interesting point about the love thing, because I haven't heard that enough.
Should we love him enough to vote for him, or should we just love him as a person, Jason?
I think that's up to the individual. How you identify with the platform that he's running on, kind of like what Bruce was talking earlier. Sometimes with the Republican platform, you have the anti-abortion, you have the anti-gay. I mean, if you resonate with those sorts of things and you think that he's going to fulfill your platform, then sure, vote for him. If you don't really jive with his platform, or if you can't get past the character issues, you can still love him without voting for him.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of a personal conviction, if you will.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah,
I would actually feel like that's a good blog post for somebody to make. Like, I've seen a lot of posts about, you know, hey, you know, Christians shouldn't vote for Trump, or evangelicals should vote for Gary Johnson, or people shouldn't vote at all.
Yeah,
I haven't seen many articles come across, you know, social media especially, or any other links to me. It's like, hey, we should love Donald Trump, and nobody like is saying that. Which is,
yeah, that's really, really interesting, because I am definitely in the, if you're voting for Donald Trump and you're a Christian, you're wrong.
Right.
Camp, which is a very, almost an unpopular view with, well, it's obviously unpopular with conservatives, but it's almost even unpopular with moderates and independents. And I claim to be an independent, but it's almost unpopular that way. I mean, I posted that on Facebook. I ended up deleting it because Facebook is not the place to put your political rants, no matter how like.
Why not though? That's an interesting point. Why isn't Facebook the place to put political rants? What is Facebook for then? I feel like Facebook. Yeah. Sure, Facebook is the bathroom wall. And people put everything. I mean, they'll put everything here. Right. I said brokenhearted, but not just that. They'll put political. They'll be like, if you go to bathroom wall, they'll be like, Hillary sucks, a big one. Or they'll say,
I'll go ahead and retract my statement, but I'll say.
I'm just wondering why you say that.
I'll get to that. I'll get to that. But I want to retract my statement and say that I deleted it because Facebook is not the place to follow. Because the real reason why I deleted it is because I didn't want to argue.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
if you see Facebook as the coffee shop, as it were, and you're screaming, basically screaming in the coffee shop, you're all morons. Like, nobody's gonna want to. I guess that's how you would approach it, right? It's not the bathroom wall to you. It's a public forum. So
sure. No. I understand. I understand what you're saying. But my point is I think it was more of a, selfish reason why I do it, with the preface of it being a good reason.
I get it. I just want to make sure that,
No. I totally understand. So my viewpoint on it is Christians should not, in any way, shape, or form, should not defend. And I did say this, by the way. I want to take this back a little bit because I think I might have said the wrong thing. I didn't say Christians shouldn't vote for Donald Trump. But I did say Christians should not defend Donald Trump. Defend his actions is what I meant, and I should have made that more clear on Facebook, but I didn't because I was angry. But and the reason why I'm saying that is this was right after the Trump tapes came out. So I wanted to say that because I was angry. It made me seriously angry. I don't remember the last time I've gotten angry in an election. I've only voted in a few, but not presidential, but in general elections too. But I want to, it really made me angry. Like, how could this, and I want to get into this. I want to move on to the Trump tapes. Let's hear a little bit from Johnny. What are your thoughts on these Trump tapes? And should you, as a, self-proclaimed Christian, defend those Trump tapes in the name of Supreme Court?
Absolutely not. I despise and abominate the language he was using. It's just really regressive. Even if it's from 10 years ago, and even if he's changed since then, quote unquote.
Yeah, exactly. I want to add this point. People are saying, he's recently become a born-again Christian and he's a new man, and we should love him for that. So, I mean, and we cannot judge that. We cannot even talk about that. But what we can say is that's why some people are defending him. So sorry to interrupt.
All right. Yeah. Well, his video apology, he said, all right, here's my statement. I've never considered myself a perfect person. First line was a lie. I saw a thing on Twitter. Someone went back and quoted him talking to someone and said, I consider myself perfect and have no flaws.
Well, I mean,
so,
okay. I mean that's silly, but it's not the first time we've heard doublespeak from a politician, so we can move on to that one.
Sure. Yeah. I love the show Community.
Right.
One of the later seasons, one of the characters is kind of pansexual. It's never really defined where exactly he hangs his hat, but he eventually comes out as gay, and then at the end of the episode, he comes out as a politician, and everyone shames him for that instead of shaming him for being gay, because they accepted him for being gay, but then they shamed him for being a politician. Anyway, getting to my point. I really like the passage 1 Corinthians 5. It's Paul writing to the church in Corinth, talking about purity in the church and God refining the church. But now I'm writing to you not to associate with anyone who bears the name of brother, i.e. Christian, sexual immorality or greed, or is an idolater, reviler, drunkard, or swindler, not even to eat with such a one. Okay, and I think we can read that with 21st century eyes and make excuses for Donald Trump, but based whether or not he's recently become a born-again Christian, just based on his comments, he has declared himself a Christian for quite a while now, and he has also been speaking sexually immorally. He chalked it up to locker room talk.
That's really interesting.
Through that he was saying, this is the norm. This is how guys talk. This is what should be expected of guys when they're talking behind closed doors about other women, about women. So, for that to be brought to light, it really shows his mercurial nature, his double-sided, his doublespeak.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I want to get Mr. Loveboat's comments on this. Jason, you still with this? Let's hear from Mr. Loveboat, and I want to hear about the Trump tapes from that loving perspective of yours.
Mr. Loveboat, I like it.
Take it.
It's like a rapper name.
Love it. Save it.
So on that note, of being a rapper name, I think that we live in a culture, we've got kind of a double standard going on, because we live in a culture where, I mean, I was just had the television on a while ago and like flipping through channels, sexual references on like every reality show. Grey's Anatomy came through, there was all this sexual stuff.
Yeah.
Movies permeated with sexual content, music, rap music especially. Like, I mean, what Trump said was pretty mild compared to a lot of rap music references. But that being said, like, do I agree with Trump's statement? Absolutely not. I think it was dehumanizing. I don't think it was right on in any way, and I'm not trying to defend what he said. But that being said, like, I think we're quick to point our finger toward this celebrity turned presidential candidate when this audio comes out and say he's not fit to lead our country. But it's kind of a double standard, because a lot of times we're paying to listen to the same stuff that he's saying, be it through music or movies or whatever else. And most people don't flinch. It doesn't really bother most people. So that being said, I think there's kind of a double standard. So am I going to defend what he said? No. And am I going to dismiss what he said? No. But I think if we're going to judge, we have to judge across the board fairly.
But isn't voting asking us to judge? I mean, we're on a, not judge in the spiritual sense, but judge in the, earthly, fleshly. You can use as much Christianese as you want. In this present time, isn't voting asking us to judge? I mean, in the literal sense of judging, because I mean, you have to judge at some point, and you have to take the pros and cons and weigh. I mean, am I right or?
No, I think you do have to judge at some point, and I think you do have to draw a line. But if I'm going to judge by who I think is fit to actually run the country based on the criteria that I have as far as morals, character, that sort of thing, then this was all over like a year and a half ago. We're back at Donald Duck. Like, I think we're dealing with a lot of imperfect people. And in doing so, like, I think also what I'm trying to say, there's a difference between a theocracy and a democracy. Like, I think sometimes, like, I can't hold people to a standard of like priest. You know what I mean? Like, all of these people that we're looking at do have some moral failures, some character shortcomings. And so at the end of the day, I have to kind of go on a treasure hunt and look and say, okay, this guy, this lady, what are we looking at here? And I've got to look for the good in them and decide based on the good that I see in them, once again, through the lens of love, like, who do I want to vote for?
Interesting. Very, very interesting.
I want to say you made a really interesting comment, just saying that flipping through channels where our culture is just saturated and inundated with sexuality. But then we immediately jump on the bandwagon of crying foul when it turns out that a public figure, is right there with the rest of society. And when it comes to actually making a political decision to vote, and judging, so to speak, it's really not pointing fingers, that sense of judging, pointing fingers at the speck in your neighbor's eye and ignoring the plank in your own. I mean, Jesus tells his followers to judge and judge rightly. I think that's like John 7 or something. And that actually ties into 1 Corinthians 5, which is what I was reading earlier. Paul says, what have I to do with judging outsiders, so non-Christians? Is it not those inside the church whom you are to judge? Right.
The only one of the arguments that I'll definitely accept in this case is speaking from a different perspective a little bit, but if you can't compare a person that people are voting a president in at this point in our country as a figurehead for the most part, and as somebody that represents our country to the world. At least that's how a lot of people see it. So if we have decided to vote for somebody that has a really rough track record, that's where people kind of aren't. It's easy to excuse those things. Now, there's no doubt if your excuse is, oh, this is lewd, this is this is disgusting language, this is really poor. That's silly. You're doing that. That's everywhere. So unless you live in a cocoon, and in that event, you probably haven't seen anything Donald Trump has said because you're not watching that sort of TV that reports on that, right? So you would never even know. So anyone that's upset about his language specifically that's not the problem. I think the problem that people have is the representation aspect that he brings, and that's probably why people are so quick to point that out, and ignore other things. But I mean, if you're basically, what I won't accept is somebody that praises Bill Clinton but doesn't praise Trump, because Bill Clinton was a piece of crap in terms of his moral compass.
But Bill's not running for president.
Correct.
He's not running.
Correct. But I'm saying if somebody's going to worry about our image in the world, I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's happened, and I'm not saying that if this had happened before Clinton was elected, he may have not been elected, right? If what he did happened prior to, he may not have been. So maybe Trump shouldn't be elected. And I'm not trying to compare that in terms of like presidency. What I'm trying to say is your aversion to crude language and crude subject matters, or your meaning the royal you, is not a valid issue. The valid issue is how it is represented in our current status as a country.
Right. Because what you're doing is okay. So here's one of the last points I want to get into. We don't have a lot of time left, but I want to get into this point real quick, and I'd like to hear from each of you at least a little bit on this. Are you, in a holistical sense, are you defending Donald Trump if you vote for him? Yes or no? Start out with a yes or no, and then you can go on to explain first. But let's go to each one of you first. Just a simple yes or no. We'll move on to the next one. Yes or no, and then we'll talk about it. So yes or no, are you defending Donald Trump if you vote for him? And Bruce.
In my case, yes, you would.
Okay. All right. So you said yes. Jason, how do you feel about that? Are you defending?
I'm going to go with no.
Okay. Johnny, let's hear it.
If you vote for Donald Trump, no, you're not.
Okay. No. And I'm going to say yes, you are, if you vote for Donald Trump. All right. So, Johnny, why?
Well, I think as we were discussing, a lot of Republican voters this cycle are voting for the party. I know that I certainly am voting Libertarian, not because I love Gary Johnson, but because I love the concept of bringing a third party into things and shaking up the process a little bit. We've been dealing with a partisan, really vitriolic atmosphere in Washington for quite a while now. I'm not positive that a third party will solve all that, but it's clear from this election cycle that a two-party system is failing us with only two candidates really having any meaningful sway. So if Johnson gets 5% of the popular next cycle, and if he gets 15% of the popular vote, he gets access. He's allowed to participate in the primetime televised debates. Really good thing in terms of making the political process more for everyone and not just two camps. So whether voting for Trump is defending him, I would say no. A lot of people are on established party platform, regardless of who the candidate is, which is a really unfortunate situation because you're still defending that political camp. But I would say that doesn't necessarily equate to defending the person at the head of it.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Let's hear from Mr. Bruce and your explanation.
Okay, so the deal is the reason why I say yes is the same reason why I'm voting. Why I wouldn't vote for him, because I don't want someone of that caliber representing the nation if that's my goal. And I don't agree with any of his policy anyway. But I would say yes, you are defending him because there are third options that are not Hillary, and that's other third parties. There's the Tea Party, there's the Conservative parties, there's Socialist Party, which, I mean, if you're going to vote Socialist, 40 years ago, you'd be in jail if you voted Socialist. But the thing is, if there are other options, and so you're defending him because there are options that will support your view, most people's views outside of him, outside of the two parties. And if people would get over themselves and over the idea of two parties, then you wouldn't be in this dilemma.
Wow. Huh. Jason, yes or no, man? And what, tell us why.
Can you refresh the question for me?
Sure. So the question is, are you defending Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton, really? But we're kind of focusing on Trump here. Are you defending a candidate if you vote for them?
Okay. And I said no. And this isn't personal because I'm voting for Donald Duck, but I don't think you are defending that person or their behavior by voting for them. Because say you have a manager at work, and you have a manager at work that comes in with a platform of saying, I want to get you a 30% longer lunch break. And so you get behind what the person is wanting to do and not necessarily the person's character. Say the manager is making lewd comments, that sort of thing, but he's still going after a 30% longer lunch break. I think it's possible for some people to vote for Donald Trump without defending him based on his platform. Now, whether or not I agree with the platform, whether or not it's a good platform, I'm not saying yes or no. But I think it is possible to defend the man's platform or what he wants to do without defending his character issues.
Interesting. Interesting. So I went back and I said yes, and here's why. If you look up the actual definition of voting or vote, it comes down to, in an informal way, used to express a wish to follow a particular course of action. Okay, that's the Webster definition of vote. Mm-hmm. So vote means to express a wish to follow a particular course of action. So do I want to follow the particular course of action that is Donald Trump? Now, I guess it comes down to, do you want to separate Trump's actions versus what he says he's going to do in policy, or do you want to separate Trump's words from his policy, and things like that? Me personally, I cannot separate what he said and done from what he thinks or says he's going to do, because by that standard, by the standard of the things he said and done thus far, I do not believe that what he says he's going to do, he's going to accomplish. Now, there's a whole nother conversation in regards to politics and how much you can actually accomplish in office. Barack Obama is a great example of an argument that I like to use, and that is the president really doesn't have that much power when it comes to lawmaking and things like that. So, but that's a different conversation. My point is I'm using that as an example to say, he's either lying. Donald Trump is either lying about what he says, and you could use the same argument for Hillary Clinton. So I'm not just totally bashing Trump here. I'm just trying to say that a politician is either lying about what they're saying they're going to do, or they cannot accomplish it once they get in office. Mm-hmm. Bernie Sanders, perfect example. In my personal opinion, from the very small amount of experience I have voting in politics, I do not believe that Bernie Sanders would have been able to accomplish anything that he would have said that he would do on the campaign trail.
Bernie is probably going to be elected or appointed, possibly if Hillary is elected, to another office.
Interesting. It's very interesting. But my point is I don't think Bernie could have gotten us free college, and I don't think Bernie could have gotten us, what was it? What do they want? $20 an hour minimum wage, something like that. I don't know how much.
Depends on the Socialist Party does want 20 in Washington State. Yeah.
Interesting. So my point is I think Donald Trump is lying. I think because of how he's perceived himself, he's lying. I also think Hillary is lying too, but I think in this particular case, this is about Donald Trump. I can't vote for that. I can't even vote for Hillary at this point. That's why I'm split down the middle. I want to vote against Donald Trump, plain and simple, and that's very biased of me, but that's how I feel about it. I want to vote again. So do I separate that? Do I want to go towards that course of action as the definition of the vote says? I can't decide. So if there's any closing thoughts on this, I'd like to hear them, and then we'll move on to our final question of the night.
No, I think we covered that one. I don't have anything to say.
Have you checked out Vermin Supreme?
No, I haven't.
He's got a great running platform, and the free pony program really is.
I hate anyone that had a pony. That's a Seinfeld quote.
I had a
That's
pony.
And all these immigrants coming over, you never see any of them on a pony. Seinfeld is. That's who we should vote for president. Jerry Seinfeld.
There you go.
Jerry
Seinfeld.
Everyone write him in.
I agree.
So we spent
At least we
spent
get some
a lot
good
of
comedy out of it.
That's so funny, dude. We spent a lot of time on the politics side of it. I do want to get into a little bit of specifically Christianity, and I want to know for the final question tonight, and then you guys we can talk about anything we want to talk about towards the end if you want. But for the final question tonight, I want to know, as a Christian, is it your duty to be involved in politics? A. B. Is it your duty to vote for a quote-unquote Christian conservative candidate? And is a Christian a conservative? Should they be in American politics today? And 3, so the top 3 points to this question are, number 3 would be, does Jesus care about politics? So number 1, is it your Christian?
Sorry, I just burped on Mike.
Hey, we love it. We're into it. He's just regurgitating all of those thoughts. So number 1, is it a Christian's duty to be involved in politics? Number 2, Jesus, does he care about politics? And number 3, should a Christian only vote for conservatism? Let's hear about it. We'll go around and I'll call on you. Johnny, give us your thoughts. Give us a couple minutes on this.
All right. Well, to the second question, does Jesus care about politics? I would say, first and foremost, he cares about you and your heart and how you're doing, and whether or not you really can connect with him and connect with people. I think to the extent that he does care about politics, it's in caring for you and making sure that your needs are met, like the sparrows of the field who don't reap or sow, but they're still fed. And in the same way, you're fed and clothed. So I think Jesus can certainly use politics to help the poor and needy, which flows into that the other question of whether a Christian should always vote conservative. I disagree. I think for the most part, a Christian should vote liberal, to that their fellow man is well cared for. We could go on and on about people abusing welfare and things like that, but when it comes down to it, are you willing to help the person who needs money to pay for food for their children? I think the government is certainly not the most efficient and most ideal answer to that, but it is certainly a big one and a powerful one. So I would say, yes, Jesus does care about politics in the sense that are there to help you and give you a safety net and give your neighbor a safety net too. So.
Thank you. Mr. Jason, 3 questions. Does Jesus care? Should Christians care? And should Christians vote conservative?
All right, get ready for a trip on the Love Boat.
Yeah!
I think in general it all goes through a lens of love. Like, our duty's not politics.
Jason?
As a Christian.
Jason.
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, I can hear you, but I just wanted to say I love you.
Oh, I love you too, Tyler Herrick. I think our duty as a Christian is not so much politics, but it's love. I think that in general, like, I don't know about your Facebook feeds, but my Facebook feed the last few weeks has been frustrating because it's people like pulling up any link, any fact that could possibly support the agenda they've chosen to follow, like just posting this stuff, and so much hate and so much discord. And, at the end of the day, I think we're divided by it. And I think from that point of view, politics in general are not necessarily something that promote love between us. So is it something that Jesus cares about? Sure, he cares about our well-being, our outcome, but I think he also cares about the fact that this is something that's kind of divisive to us, As far as voting conservative, I think that you have to vote where your convictions lie. I think you have to pray about it. And I think if your convictions lie on one side of the spectrum, then I think you have to vote that way. If you, I don't know, if you feel like if your convictions lead you to write in Donald Duck, I think you have to do that too. So I think that's a kind of a personal thing between you and God and loving the world around you.
Aw, can we get a collective aw?
The Love Boat was a great show. I'm just saying.
Love Boat.
Mr. Bruce, should Christians care? Does Jesus care? And should Christians vote only conservative?
Should Christians care? Sure. They can care. They care about lots of other stupid things. They care about what color the pew cushions are. I mean, you know what I mean? They care about lots of things in life that may not be important. So that kind of is, I mean, that's a big question in terms of should they care? I don't know.
Should they care about politics, though?
You should only care about what separates you from God. So sin. And have you made politics an idol? Have you made the United States an idol? Have you made the flag an idol?
Getting in the deep stuff.
Nice.
Getting in the deep stuff. All right.
So
Jesus, does Jesus care? Does Jesus care?
I think it's the same question. That he cares if you've separated yourself from him, and if these things are idols, if they've taken the place of that, then that's really what he cares about. I feel. If your motive is to be in politics to spread the name of Christ, maybe that's a good idea. Be in politics, be a Republican, run on the Jesus platform, and show everyone that you love them, really love them, and then that's fine. And what was the last question? Should they be a conservative?
Yeah, should they only vote conservative? Is that the only way to vote?
No, you will if you're going to vote for Christian values, then you vote for whomever upholds those values, and if that's in your interpretation a liberal, then you vote liberal. If conservatives does not mean Bible believing, so that's silly. And for people to pigeonhole all conservatives into Bible believing is doing them a disservice and doing the Bible a disservice. I actually think Christ would be pretty upset that you said, hey, I think that we're that Jesus would only want you to be a conservative. I think God is pretty mad at that, because there's no specifics that state, oh, you need to be a conservative. God just wants you to give to Caesar what Caesar's, like Jesus said, and love your fellow man. So I can't get behind that whole if you're a Christian you're conservative bullcrap. I can't get behind the if you're a Christian you're liberal either. And so vote the issues is the way I see it. We're too party based. Vote the issues.
I agree. But do the issues, I know we kind of brought this up before, but I just want to hear your thoughts on this, Bruce. Do the issues intertwine with the candidates' morals? And the candidates, not more necessarily morals, we can't really judge morals by character.
Well, if the issues you're voting on are based in your Christianity, they will not be representing issues based on their moral standards. They will not be, if they are morally reprehensible, then they're not going to be upholding the issues that you care about most likely. And B, if they are, then you have to realize that they are a fallen individual like everyone else. They need grace, they need love, and you can vote for them and pray that God changes their heart. Pray that you come around. You can try and make the best out of it. And if it's at the end of the day, you're looking at Hillary, you're looking at Trump, and Trump says no abortion, and Hillary says yes abortion in the late term, okay, I'm not voting for her because I can't have anyone condone murder. We do our best at creating sin in a levels platform. We think sin is it's a society. We've taken sins and said this is worse than that one, this is worse. Let's make a hierarchy of sin. Whereas God just sees all of your sin and it sucks. So in what we do is we say, oh, well, murder is like top sin. And so they're going to say, okay, well, if that's top sin and everything else is below, then we're going to vote for the guy who's not murdering. That's what they do. And so if that's how you're going to do it, then you got to vote for Trump. That's the way they see it.
Send for 200, please, Alex.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any closing thoughts real quick? We're going to play a closing game here, but I want to make sure everybody's Trumped out, everybody's Hillary'd out, everybody's got their closing statements.
Yeah, I have one to make.
Sure.
This was my friend, another friend of mine named Tyler on Twitter. If you remember a year and a half ago when Wisconsin lost in the March Madness finals, the sad on television, that was him. I go to UW-Madison with him. He was the sad looking Teletubby that the in on at the end.
Aww.
Anyway, just a little character building. So he on Twitter said, you should think about America less as this large indefinable country / power, and you should think about it more as each individual person around you. Reach out to the people in your neighborhood and in your friend group and out of your friend group if you really want to make this country a better place and impact it for the better. Don't just view it as a whole. See the forest for the trees. He said that in 140 characters less, though.
That's interesting.
Make the forest great again.
Make the forest great again. That's great. Did you guys have anything else you guys wanted to add real quick? I mean, I guess I'll just say, it's really interesting to hear perspectives from a, almost a progressive Christian standpoint, because I think it's so easy to get wrapped up in the, oh my God, have you heard what this guy said? Do not vote for him standpoint as a Christian. And it's also just as easy to get wrapped up in the, oh my God, have you seen what Hillary's done? Do not vote for her stance. So I think it's really, really easy for us to get into those realms. And I think it's more important for us to kind of go back to what Jason was saying and just, hey, first of all, love them as a person. Second of all, take what is most important to you personally, and it doesn't matter what other people say. Just do what you think is right and continue to seek after God. If you're a Christian and you're listening to this, I think the main point of all of this is that you really, really should just go and chase after God and listen to what he's saying, and don't try to convince other people of what he's saying, and don't try to make it about you or make it about Donald or make it about America. Make it about God and just be in that. That's my personal opinion, and I would hope that people would take that for what it is. And I've been extremely biased and I've been extremely anti-Trump. But I want to make it clear that that's because that's what I feel is right, and that doesn't mean that that's going to work for everybody. And no, this isn't the cop-out, you do you, it'll be cool. This is the cop-out you should do. If, as a Christian, my personal opinion is you should do what you think God wants you to do.
Amen, brother.
Amen. Amen. So, anything else?
When I was a kid, like one of my friend's moms, anytime in high school we would say something negative about someone, she'd make us say 7 nice things about the person. And sometimes that's how, I know, right? 7, that's like a million, right? But sometimes that's a fun little game I like to play in my head to kind of keep my love on, if you will. Like when I see somebody that appears at first glance or first words out of their mouth to be kind of unlovable, I like to study them, and I like to talk to them, or I like to research them, or whatever the case may be, politician or otherwise. And I like to see if I can come up with a list of things that I like about the person, even when it seems tricky to do so.
Jason, thank you very much. We'd like to volunteer you to be the first to name 3 nice things about Donald Trump.
3 nice things about Donald Trump. First person ever.
Not just between us, just ever.
Is this really happening? You really want me to?
3. I want 3 things. You made it up. Do it.
3 things. I actually, this one's going to come out a little bit. I'm not trying to be facetious, but I really do think the man has some intelligence. You don't get to be a billionaire. You might by avoiding taxes, but you don't get to be a billionaire by
I'd like to say that nobody becomes a billionaire by avoiding taxes. I promise.
Believe me. Believe me.
The man's got some savvy when it comes to numbers.
Everyone is in that world. They all are, really.
Yeah. 2 more things.
I'm not excusing any of it, but I'm just letting, it's definitely the case.
Definitely. I agree. I think the man's got a nice smile. That's kind of a cop-out one, but I really do see like a teddy bear in there. I think if you actually sat down with Donald Trump and got past the kind of gruff exterior, crazy comments, I think he's actually kind of a big teddy bear in there. Number 3, I've been to Trump Tower. I've never been a fan of gold escalators, so I can't count that. I do think, third one, I'm trying here, folks. I'm really trying here. I think the man's got a lot of potential in the leadership realm. I think besides being smart and being a general nice guy, I really do think the guy's got leadership potential. I think the guy, part of what draws people to Trump is the lack of a filter. I think he could use a little more filter than what he has. But I do see leadership potential there. I see characteristics, qualities that, he's been a leader in his business, so I think he could be a good leader.
Let's end it.
Thank you for only making me do 3.
Yeah, what's going to be 7? Well, you do have to do 3 more. You can wait till the show's over, but you do have to do 3 more because you did say something negative about his gold escalators in there. So every time you say something negative, you got to do 3 more. So yeah,
we're going to do 70 times 7.
Exactly.
It'd be about the escalator, though, not about him, right? So they're mechanically sound. They don't make funny noises.
Okay. I'll let that one slide today. Because we got to move on. We got to move on real quickly to our game. And this is my favorite game. And I've played this game before, and I want you guys to join me. And this one's called Donald Trump or Drunk Guy at a Bar. Okay. And what we're going to do.
It's funny you say that because I've said that from the beginning, is that Donald Trump just sounds like one of those drunk guys at the bar that just like is going up. Like he's just like, yeah, all these Mexicans are the problem.
Exactly. So Donald Trump or Drunk Guy at a Bar. I'm going to say a quote, and I want you to tell me whether or not this was Donald Trump or a drunk guy at a bar.
Spoiler alert, they're all Donald Trump.
Yeah, right. I have a list of quotes here, and then I also have some made-up quotes from a drunk guy at a bar. So the very first one is, and all you need to say is Donald or drunk guy. So if I call on you, you could say Donald or drunk guy, and then whoever gets it will get a point, and whoever has the most points at the end of this will win. So we'll start with the first quote. This quote is, "Sorry, losers and haters, but my IQ is one of the highest, and you all know it. Please don't feel so stupid or insecure. It's not your fault." Donald Trump or drunk guy at a bar? Go ahead, Bruce.
Donald Trump.
Okay. Jason.
I'm going to say Trump guy at a bar. Does that count?
Trump. No, nice try though. Nice try. Donald Trump or drunk guy? Okay. And Scribbles.
I'm pretty sure I retweeted that one. That was Donald Trump.
Okay. Okay. Yes. So that was Donald Trump. Good job. You each have a point on the board today.
Three-way tie.
Three-way tie. Here we go. Moving into the next question. Okay. This one's going to be a hard one. I like China. I just sold an apartment for $15 million to someone from China. Am I supposed to dislike them? Come on. What's so wrong with China? It's better than Mexico. Donald Trump or a drunk guy at a bar? Bruce.
Drunk guy at a bar.
Okay. Jason.
Trumpy Trump.
Okay. Scribbles.
You said you made these up?
What? No, I said it's either a drunk guy at a bar or actual Donald Trump quotes.
So you heard a drunk guy at a bar say this and or Trump?
I made up the drunk guy at a bar ones.
I see. Okay. I feel like you would go to the extreme in emulating him, but also I feel like he is already extreme. So, gosh, I'm going to say drunk guy at a bar.
Okay, so Scribbles said drunk guy, Bruce said drunk guy. Jason, you said Donald?
Yes.
Okay, point for Jason. All right, so that was Donald Trump. And by the way, this is from...
Yes. That's why I didn't choose.
I know, right? Yeah, exactly. So, all right, so moving on. Here we go. Here's a good one. Global warming was created by and for the Chinese in order to make U.S. manufacturing non-competitive. Global warming, what a joke. Donald Trump or drunk guy at a bar? We'll start with Scribbles this time.
I know the first sentence was Trump. What a joke. That seems like something he would say. I know I retweeted that one. We're going to go with Trump.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a Trump. Yeah.
Donald Trump, yeah.
Donald Trump. All right. And the answer was it was a drunk guy at a bar talking about Donald Trump. So no, that was Trump. I'll give it to you. You. Okay. So that was Trump. And what are the points at now? We've got so we did 3 questions. Yeah. So Jason's up 1 right now. We did 3 questions. So it's 3-2. All right. 3-2. Okay. Look at that young, beautiful piece of ass. I love that. Give me more. Okay. That was the quote. Look at that young, beautiful piece of ass. I love that. Give me more. Jason, we'll start with you. Donald Trump or drunk at a bar? You there, Jason? Okay, we'll move on to Bruce. Donald Trump or drunk guy at a bar?
Drunk guy at a bar.
Okay, and Scribbles.
Can I phone a friend?
No.
Okay. Can I eliminate half of the questions?
Wait, there are any other ones?
No, I'll say Trump.
Okay, and Jason, if you're with us, Donald Trump or drunk guy at a bar? Look at that fine piece of ass.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Awesome. Yes, arguably both, but I'm going to go with the drunk guy at the bar.
Okay, so that was a drunk guy at a bar. And so what are the points at now? We had 3-2, so now it's still 4-4, or 3, 4, and 2.
Yeah.
Jason's up by 1. Alrighty, so we've got 2 more questions, which is enough chance to tie. The quote is, here's the funny thing. I don't get along with rich people. I get along with the middle class and the poor people better than I get along with rich people. Must be something about the way that I love people. Okay. Jason, Donald Trump, drunk at a bar.
DJ Trumpy Trump.
All right. Scribs.
Drunk guy at a bar.
Okay. And Bruce.
Trump.
Okay. So now the point totals are Scribbles. You have 2 points. This was Donald Trump again. Jason, you have 5 points, right? You've gotten none wrong.
5 points.
And Mr. Bruce, you're at 4 points.
Cool.
All righty. Last one here, guys. Here's a really, really, really good one. Stand by. I don't wear a rug. It's mine. And I promise not to talk about your massive plastic surgeries that didn't work. Donald Trump or a drunk guy at a bar. Scribbles.
I want to say Trump.
Okay. Jason.
Trump.
Okay. And Bruce.
Trump.
All righty. And we have a winner. It is Mr. Jason, 6 out of 6. Can you believe it?
Wow.
6 out of 6. Scribbles, that was Donald Trump.
Yep.
All righty. So I think you got a point for that, right? You answered that correctly, Scribbles?
Yes.
3 to 6. And then Mr. Bruce, you said Trump as well, right?
Yeah, he did.
Okay, guys, don't spend all your points in one place. We'd like to thank everyone for coming on to the Talk It Out podcast this evening. If you liked what you heard, you can go to talkitoutpod.net. You can check us out on any we do RSS feed uploads. Is that right, Bruce?
Yeah.
Okay, so we do
Or
RSS
iTunes.
feeds or iTunes. That's right. So you can check us out on iTunes, and you can hear us. We'll probably upload this to SoundCloud once it's complete. It'll take us a couple days to get the produced version up with the music and everything like that. But if you can't wait, you can check us out on our YouTube channel. This has been the Talk It Out podcast. We do have one more commercial disclaimer that we want to send out to you. Bruce, you want to tell the people a little bit about our Tip It Out program?
Yeah, we got a Patreon. You can find out Talk It Out Pod on Patreon. If you like what we do, help pay for some of the hosting of the site and the RSS feeds. That'd be great. Go to Patreon, look for Talk It Out Pod, and give us a few bucks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Give us money. Give us money so we can feed our dogs and our children and our families. We might be not surviving anymore. Bruce actually has children, so if you want his children to survive, please donate your money.
It's on you.
This is it. I mean, this is his livelihood, in all honesty. This is what he lives off of. And that was very facetious, and he's probably going to beat me up for saying that off air. And thank you for listening once again to the Talk It Out podcast. If you really do enjoy what you heard, you can check us out on Twitter, talkitoutpod.net, and of course, your favorite podcasting. We want to give a special shout out to Jason McClinigan and Johnny Collins for joining us today. Thanks for being our special co-host. We hope you enjoyed your time. And we'll catch you guys on another future episode of Talk It Out podcast if you guys are up for it.
Yeah.
Totes.
I just want to say that there's no such thing as ethical consumption under capitalism, and if voting were powerful, it'd be legal.
Wow, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Appreciate that little nugget of information. Jason, thanks again, buddy. It was such great time. Good Lord, am I tired or what? Man, such a great time having you on here, and we look forward to hearing more about your Love Boat experiences.
Thanks for having me, man. Make the forest great again.
Make the forest great again. Bruce, it's always good to have you, man. Co-host, partner in crime, love you, dude. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Anything else?
Anyone that spews that anti-capitalist type talk again will be jailed.
We'll end it with that little nugget of fun, and we'll stop the broadcast. Thanks for tuning in. If you joined us on the live show, tune us in next week. Check out our Twitter feed, our Facebook page. We'll let you know when we're live again. Talk it out. We love you guys.